Well, it's game day, so I'm drinking tea. Uh, it's game day. I'm trying to limit myself to one coffee a day, which is really hard. So I'm filling my need for a beverage with what am I drinking? English breakfast tea right now.
Nice.
So it's not. I still prefer the espresso, the latte, but it's just too much caffeine for me. Like I don't know if it's because I'm old or what, but if I have a latte at like 3, like at 1 in the morning, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Maybe I should read a book. Maybe I should watch something on TV. And I'm like, I can't calm down. You know.
I'm the same way. If I have a coffee too late in the day, like I won't necessarily be bouncing off the walls, but I'll have no desire to go to bed. So it'll be 11:30 at night. I'll just be sitting, in front of the TV watching stuff and not necessarily want to go lay in bed.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh, I was gonna ask you how your projects are going around the house. So you did the garage.
Yeah. Yeah. We had
Cleaned
a
the garage.
great garage clean out. Still have some more stuff to go through because we actually ran out of time, but we actually emptied a good portion out of the garage. I'm going to revisit that. And right now I'm working on the side of the house. So
Doing a
last
fire
weekend,
pit or
yeah, working on redoing the side of the house, dressing it up for make a fire pit area. So I ripped out the seagrass, or at least most of the seagrass that we had growing at the edge of this wall. So rip that out. It's massive. So I still have some more roots to rip out. And then this weekend, I got to go in and patch some cracks in that wall. That's a long part of the side of the house there. And then I want to patch that, power wash it, and everything. I want to repaint it. I don't know if I can repaint it this weekend, but I'm also originally I was going to rip up all the grass in that area and put stone down. But then when I was really looking at it, chatted with my brother-in-law, and he's like, actually, those stones I think is going to be a bigger pain in the ass than grass. So what I think I'm going to do is aerate the lawn, get topsoil, level it out because there's some dips in it.
I mean, you are
Level
full
it.
on dad mode at this point.
Oh, totally. Aerate it, get soil to level it out, seed it, put hay down. I'm debating doing that part this weekend.
Okay. Well, so 2 things. Excuse me. One, don't ruin my image because I picture you in jorts and like beat up tennis shoes and white socks out in the yard. So that's my image. And 2, can you have open flame in the city limits?
Where we're at, as long as well, I mean, it's not necessarily open flame, but yeah, we can have fire pits.
Right. So you can do a fire pit. That's okay.
Yeah, and now I have the solo stove fire pit. So
I've been looking
that.
at those. Do you like that?
Oh, I love it. Now I got the small one. Suzanne got it for me for Christmas last year.
Nice.
So I've got the small one. It's nice. It's portable. We've taken it down the shore with us. Like throw it in the, I've got a carrying case for it. Put it in the back of the truck. It burns nice. It burns hot. So what I want to do is once I get the grass redone, is cut out a portion of it and put some flagstone down, and then I would have that sitting on top of that. But yeah, there's people here that have propane or gas fire pits. Other ones have the small wooden ones. I haven't seen anybody like build like they're actually like a genuine like fire pit where you dig out the ground, you put like the sand down or whatever, put the stone around it, and then you have that. I haven't seen anybody actually build one of those.
Got it. I have a fire pit out back. It was built as a wood fire pit, but it's not really. I don't think we're supposed to have wood fires in the city, especially in my neighborhood, because there's just too much open grass, dry grass.
It's too dry at times.
Too dry. So a few years ago, I retrofitted it to be a propane fed, and it's awesome. But I don't know if it's not comfortable or what, but it just doesn't get the use I wish it would get. And maybe it's just because it doesn't have that authenticity of the wood fire, which just has something unique to it. But I need to figure out how to get more use out of it.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I want to put the focus right now on the side of the yard is with the fall coming. I want to make it a point for us to go out there and and just sit and enjoy, like, being outside. Because I think like 2 years ago, she got me a little mini projector, and then I
Mm-hmm.
bought a pop up screen. So I have visions of putting the screen up and then
Mm-hmm.
going and putting a hockey game on in the winter, or putting a movie on like a Friday night, getting the fire pit going, and then us just, kind of relaxing outside.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. I didn't even look at the topic today. I usually look at it and try to seed random things to see if you can pick up on it for a transition, but I didn't even look this week. So,
Um, so yeah, so what I want to do with our topic this week is wrap up our theme on the current state of remote work. Um, and the topic I have is the office as we know it dead? Because if you think about it, like, what we're seeing is we're seeing employees that are being told it's time to return to the office, quitting their jobs and going to a full remote job. You have companies that are downsizing or closing offices. I've heard from a few colleagues that they're being told, like, your time in the office is now limited. Like, pick 2 days a week to come in. There's not going to be any set desks. You just come in and grab a spot to work. Make it something where there's a reason to come into the office. Companies are closing offices. So State Street Bank. I'm familiar with them because they were a client of mine 15 years ago in another industry, and like, they're one of the biggest providers of fund accounting services. But they're a massive international bank. Their main U.S. headquarters are out of Boston, but they announced a couple weeks ago that they're closing their New York office. So
mm,
anybody that was based in New York would go into that office. So I guess you're close to Wall Street, anything like that, if you need to be. They're closing that office. So you're seeing this move to downsize the office. And I mean, these are examples that could lend to an answer of yes to my question. But there are still some companies are holding fast to some kind of full-time return to the office. So what I want to do to close this out is talk about what is the future of the office. And again, with kind of like a hyperbolic question of,
mm-hmm.
is it dead?
um, I don't think it's dead. I think change inherently takes a long time. So while we are seeing a lot of kind of wrangling with the ideas of what to do with it, I think the default position um, is going to be to go back in the office, and I think we've kind of gotten a stay a bit because we've had COVID draw out, I think, a little longer than we all expected, and I think the experts early on said, hey, pandemics take 18, 36 months to run their course, and we all thought, oh, this will be over in 10 to 12 months and we'll be back to normal. So I think we were already expecting to kind of have to make that decision, and we're kind of in this place where we have a little bit more kind of freedom to delay that decision, but it's coming. And I think the default for most companies is going to be to go back to business as usual. It will be interesting to see what happens there, because you have, it seems like there's a lot of noise from people saying, I've been given this new sense of autonomy and freedom, and I'm not willing to give it up. So I think businesses have a lot of interesting challenges to think about. And I think going back to the office is an opportunity that can be taken, but not, as again Jim says, not same old same old. Like, if you go back to the way it was and you don't give or don't continue to give your employees the sense of autonomy and freedom of movement that they have right now, companies are gonna struggle. There's gonna be some challenges, and you're gonna see a continued mass movement of employees who are just unwilling to give that up. And again, I think we've so tightly coupled that with remote work that it's remote work, right? But I think really the bigger discussion is more around the autonomy and freedom that remote offers. I think you can have that in other models, full office, hybrid, but that really needs to be part of the discussion, that it's less about quote remote and more about just freedom and autonomy that the employees are really craving right now.
So you're saying while the surface level topic is about the where, it's really about the how.
Yeah, you said it much better and cleaner than I did. That's, yeah, absolutely right. And I think that's where the discussion needs to be had, and then you can figure out, based on your business, based on what you do, what's the right setup for us. For some people, they'll conclude it's in the office, and I think that's okay. For others, they'll come up with more of a hybrid distributed system. For others, they'll come up with a fully remote, and I think if they've put in the work and the thought to make that work, any of those can work. But if your focus is on the where, you're missing the conversation. It really needs to be on this change of how you've perceived and treated your employees that is much, much more important than where people are working from my perspective. We saw, and to kind of talk about this thrashing about the where, did you see the survey? I don't know if it's a survey, but there was some kind of study coming out. I don't know if it was Microsoft or some third party published it about their experience with remote work over the pandemic.
No, I missed that one.
So I'm probably bastardizing a bit, but I think the headline was that at Microsoft it was determined that remote work is going to absolutely result in less collaboration and less work creation, and that they found that primarily that was driven by lack of communication, that their workforce was not communicating as much, that employees were not engaging in meetings, new hires were feeling unwelcomed because they were not part of the conversation, and they felt that that was going to lead to a loss of productivity and a loss of innovation.
I mean, convenient, because I bet you they cited, they funded that and then cited it for their reason to return to the office.
So, and that's what I think we'll see a lot of. And as these things start to come out, we have to ask the question, who is profiting from this opinion? And as we've seen on the other side of the aisle with the very loud and vocal pro remote crowd, we've seen that the people that are the loudest are often the people that are positioned to profit the most from it, because they're selling some sort of service or software for fully remote teams. So just be critical about it. But getting back to the topic of what becomes of the office, again, I think there will be a segment of companies where it's a full return to office. And again, my advice to those companies would be, I think that's completely fine, but don't go back to the way it was before. Figure out how you can provide more autonomy and ownership of your employees' day so they can be more in charge as far as how they design their days, because that is really what they're craving more than the remote aspect. For other companies, and I think really over time, I think the vast majority of companies are going to go to a hybrid model. I don't think that it's realistic to think that most companies, especially large companies, are going to go fully remote all the time. And not in anywhere in the near future. I just don't think that that is a reality. I think it's a much better reality to go to some sort of a hybrid model. And that's where I think there's a very interesting discussion of what the office becomes. Because I think that the innovative companies, and I'm expecting there to be lots of product, hardware, software, and service companies that spring up around helping companies reimagine the office. Because if we're going back to it as a place to, as a farm, basically, a place to house employees, I think that's missing the opportunity for these hybrid models. I think the opportunity is really to reimagine the office and rethink it as a meeting and collaboration space, as a maker space, maybe even as a hoteling space. Maybe it's an opportunity to reimagine the space itself, and maybe it becomes like, we have working spaces, and in some places we have short-term apartments, and it's an opportunity like our remote workforce can go work anywhere, but when they come back to the office, it's an option that they could have an apartment. And I don't know, like, who knows what that looks like. But to me, I think that that's where the real opportunity is not getting rid of the office, but reimagining it and recreating it in a way that it's less about a farm to house employees and more of a functional location that has specific solutions that we want to be able to provide for our workforce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the concept of the makerspace. Collaborative areas where then that gives people the autonomy to choose when to come in. I would love for our team to come in for the 3 days, 3 straight days next week. We're going to meet in this area because this is what we're going to work through, and then that may be the last time we're in for 6 weeks. Some kind of example like that. But then it's meant to be a collaborative space, and you're not just sitting in a cube farm. And as this debate has gotten really ginned up, and people are arguing, and it was an episode or two ago we talked about like the why you have these extreme sides, like you do, like I didn't necessarily see that one that you were talking about with Microsoft, but I saw another headline yesterday or the day before that because employees have saved so much time on commuting, they should anticipate, and employers should expect employees to work more because they're now commuting less.
In fact, I've heard arguments where employees should be not only willing but should expect to take pay cuts because they're saving money working at home.
Yeah.
Who's creating these narratives?
Well, I think it's one of two things. It's either people that profit from the argument and the debate, or it's thought leaders to give these companies reasons to cite when they do have pay cuts.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like, if you can go out and start seeding this narrative, come on. I mean, let's face it. That's been done for decades. Go out and seed this argument so that it's kind of the precedent has been set. It's been out there that when we come in and do pay cuts, it's like, we actually should cut your pay because you're not commuting as much, you're not putting as much wear and tear on your vehicle, you're not spending as much on gas, so you should expect a pay cut. But I saw that the other day, and one of the things that this topic, and I touched on it a bit last week, but this topic has really kind of started to make me think, and don't take this the wrong way as my boss. Like, as I've been thinking through remote work, and I mentioned last week how like it took me a while to really embrace the concept of working remotely and getting creative of where and when I work and not being chained to a desk as I had been programmed to. Like, part of me has been thinking like, I don't want to grind anymore. On this podcast, I've also been very open about my workaholic tendencies. I have to work tonight, like the panic attack. I need to get that email out because if I don't, someone's not going to be happy tomorrow morning if it's not in an inbox. Like that thought process starts to spiral. But then there's part of me, it's like, I've been a workaholic for 20 plus years at this point. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to put in, I enjoy what I do. I want to do that. And then I want to go enjoy life. I want to go live life.
Yeah.
And that's what this series of episodes has really also gotten, that is bubbled up those thoughts and really helped me kind of pull them together in kind of like a solid argument.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, man, that's something you and I have talked a lot about. Like, it's funny because, and this actually leads into one of my follow-up questions to you. But it's funny that the things that we think happen in an office, at least in my experience, usually don't, and the things that we fear the most happening in remote usually don't. Right? Like, you and I had a lot of talk when you first joined about like, dude, you got to get out of this mindset. Like, we're not in an office anymore. Like, take advantage of this, but we all fall victim to it. It's like we're so tied and we so just want to work. It's like we have all this opportunity and freedom, but man, we're not taking advantage of it. And it's just funny to me because when you talk to a manager that is anti-remote, it's like, well, Jim's going to be out dinking around all the time. It's like, it's actually the opposite. Like, I've had to like tell Jim, like, stop, dude, go do something, So, and on the flip side of that, and it was going to be my question back to you, is that, and especially about reimagining the office, we hear all of this talk about, we can't go remote because communication and collaboration and creativity. I'm like, I don't know that I've ever been in an office where I felt creative. I've been in offices where I feel the opposite of creative and collaborative because it's like drab and I'm stuck in this stupid cube and it's noisy and it's just so maybe I've just worked for really crappy companies, but I have never in my career been in an office where I'm like, I need to go to the office because I just feel super creative being there. Just for me, it never happened.
So one company I worked for, we had two big buildings in this one area. They were down the street from each other. And you had the one building which had like that's where you had reception for visitors, you had the executive team, you had the business side, and you had a few other teams, and then the other main building was all development. And when I started at a company, we were at that first building I was talking about. And then the
Hmm.
rumor started saying that they were going to relocate our team to the other one so we could be closer to that other group. And there were people that were dreading it because that other building was nicknamed Death Star. Because to your point, it was gray, it was drab,
Hmm.
it was dreary, it was nothing but cube farms and like people that were more or less overworked. And yeah, like nobody wanted to go work in that building. And when we got moved over there, it was not nice. It was not fun.
Yeah.
And it was so we could be closer to them, but then also, but still, it was like everybody still got stuck, in their cube. So no, like I mean, now let me take that back. I mean, there have been a couple times where it's been collaborative in the office, but like if you're saying like day to day collaborating or creativity will be up with everybody in the same space. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen by default, right? And I
Okay,
think,
good point.
yeah, and I think that that's again the importance of being really deliberate in this conversation because we're just too surface level. It's about if everyone's in the office, we automatically are creative and collaborate. No, it doesn't work that way. And so we need to be talking about the more underlying facets of what this is because can an office help you be more connected, communicative, and collaborative? 100%. But it doesn't happen by default just by putting people in an office. And I think that that's where so many companies are going to trip up in this conversation. Again, if we come back in the office, we're automatically going to communicate and collaborate better. Nope. If we come back in the office, then everybody's going to be okay and happy. Nope, because you're going to now have to think about giving them the autonomy that they want. So that's where I'm really stuck on like let's just reinvent this. Let's rethink think this. And the office can be a very magical place, but not unless we put deliberate thought into how we want to use it. Um, so I'll give you the kind of the opposite example, and for the record, I love Hallmark. They were a great company to work with, really amazing people. I miss my trips out to Kansas City. I can't imagine how anyone in that company could go into that building and be creative. um, I walked into that building and I'm like, did I just step into a time machine and go back to 1960? It was the most bizarre feeling in the world. I can't even begin to describe it and paint a proper picture of what it was like walking into that building, but it was literally like I was stepping into the 1960s. And I'm like, how can you expect anyone in this company to be able to compete with like the papyruses of the world and the companies that are thinking creatively about greeting cards and new ways to do things like sitting in this office? It can't be done, and so again, I think the fact that you have proximity and you have people close together and you have the opportunity to like closely communicate and collaborate can be an amazing thing, but we're going to have to think about ways, and again, this whole concept of a makerspace to me is where it's at. We create locations to solve specific things. We create locations with specific tools that we can go in to use, and we create spaces that drive creativity. It's not the drab office with the cube farms, and it's not like the fancy offices with the ping pong tables and the fancy coffee machine. It's offices that have been really thought out from a design perspective of it would be hard, even if you're not a creative person, to step foot in here and not start thinking creatively. It would be hard not to communicate and collaborate with people because this space just begs for people to come together and start talking about things. Like that to me is where the magic is going to happen. And honestly, very few companies are going to do it.
Yeah, it all comes down to intentionality. And there's got to be a lot of thought into that. And then I don't know if it was you or somebody else recently put out on Twitter, thinking is hard. Um, it, uh,
Yeah,
it
that was
is.
me.
So
I was me replying to one of Evan's tweets.
yeah. And yeah, because there's going to be a lot of hard work involved in saying, how do we make this collaborative?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's certain parts of work that are just mundane.
Mm-hmm.
Let's admit it. Like we all have those parts of our week where it's like, okay, we gotta get these mundane tasks done. Leave them for somewhere else. But to pull people into an office to do that, you have to be intentional. You can't just put up some ping pong tables or a TV with a video game system up that people can take in the break room.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need to think like, how do we design this space to draw those people in and then kind of get those creative juices flowing.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's a really great opportunity for people to spin up companies around that, because I think these businesses are going to need help, and to have advisors and consultants come in and say we can transform the office, not only from a vision perspective, but from an engineering perspective, from a finishes perspective, from a just refiguring out how you want to use this. I think is a great opportunity for people to spin up a whole industry around that, because companies will need help. And again, I think the vast majority of them aren't going to think about it. They're going to go back to the office and cube farms. A few will think about it, but they'll realize they don't have the expertise to do it. And so they're going to go back to the office and cube farms. And an elite few are going to be like, wow, this is a real opportunity for us to rethink this space and really do something magical with it. And it's going to be amazing to see what they're able to create.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see those companies that actually take this opportunity to kill off the office model we're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
The office model that we've been programmed to embrace and look forward to,
Mm-hmm.
and build something different, because I
Yeah.
think those are the companies that are going to attract the top talent.
Yeah. And I will tell you, if I had an office, and for me, it would have to be a co-working location. But if I had a co-working location that I could go to that offered me that, post-pandemic, I would absolutely be going to that. I love being at home. I love spending time in my home office. But if I had that as an option, a couple days a week, absolutely. But I'm not interested in going to a co-working location just to rent a desk or an office to make phone calls in. Like I can do that at home. It's there.
Mhm.
You've got to offer me something unique and different, and I want to feel connected. I want to be able to collaborate with other smart people, and I want to feel creative. So if you can't give me a space to do that, I have no interest going in. And I think that that's what you're going to find with a lot of employees, is that they're, again, as long as you're addressing the autonomy, they're not going to want to go back into an office just to have an office. You're going to have to offer them something different and unique. So when they go back in, it's like, okay, this is giving me something I want, not just something that you think I need. Like, I don't need a desk. I got that at home. Like I need something more. And again, I think the biggest mistake that companies are going to make is that, well, the more is that you're with all your coworkers and your colleagues. They're all right there. So what? They're all right there virtually. And, just because we're more closer in person isn't going to force it to happen. Like maybe a incremental a bit more, but it's not going to move the needle.
I don't. I
That
think
was,
we've
that was a
really got.
lot.
Yeah. No, it was a lot, but like I don't know if there's much more with this
Yeah.
that we could talk about. Like it's it's going to be interesting, because I'm seeing two sides of, not the debate, because we've already talked about that, but like two sides of this approach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing from colleagues that are being told like, the office is going to be here as that space for when you need somewhere to go, but we're really looking for you to work from home from now on. But then I'm also hearing, there are those stories out there, and I'm curious about how much of it is actual AstroTurf or not, about those companies like, we're going back into the office, and with the tone of it, it's going back to the way it was.
Oh, for sure. And I know personally of companies that have sent that
Okay.
message out. So it is happening.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is like I'm seeing a lot of people talk about that they've quit jobs. Like, no, I'm not going back in. I've
Mhm.
enjoyed this, and I've told you, like my wife and I, we know a few people that when the pandemic kicked off and they saw like remote work was going to be indefinite, or the expectation was going to be indefinite. They moved an
Mhm.
hour and a half away from the work location,
Yeah.
and now it's like, all right, I want to stay remote or I'm going to leave.
Yep. Yeah, and
I've
again,
been able to successfully do my job for 18 months. Like, like I want to stay
why not?
remote.
Yeah. And again, I think we've had a little bit of a stay from companies having to make those tough decisions because we're still kind of at the height of the pandemic, and so they haven't been forced to do a full return to office. So I think it's probably going to be delayed until probably the middle of next year. But we've already started to see movement of employees, and I think it's only
Mhm.
going to continue to ramp up in that we're going to see a lot of fluidity in employees moving around because sure, there are going to be some that go along with the flow. Sure, there are going to be some that liked the way it was before, but I truly believe that the vast majority of people that have gotten this new sense of freedom and autonomy are not going to be willing to give it up.
Oh
And
no.
unless you address that, be prepared for a large percentage of your workforce to turn over in the next 6 to 12 months.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the total tone I'm picking up with too. It's like I've really come to enjoy this. I like I think like people's habits, like, well, so it's 21 days to change a habit. That's what they say, 21 days to change a
Hmm.
habit. And the what people have gotten used to just with kids and school and all of those things, going back into the office is going to be a major disruptor. So my wife went back into the classroom for like the last 2 months of the school year last year, and it was even it threw us off. So like 12 months of being at home, 12, 14 months of being at home. Oh my God, it was great with with pickup and drop off for childcare. Now, granted, we were both working from here, but we still took them to a babysitter so we can both get our work done. It was so much easier having both of us here. It
Hmm.
actually, like, like, because before my wife was running out the door at 7:30 in the morning, so I'm getting him ready, getting him off to the babysitter so I can get to start work. With teaching from home, she wasn't logging in until 20 after 8. That extra 50 minutes
Yeah.
made a huge difference in our morning routine, and it didn't feel as rushed. And we were actually talking about this the other night. She didn't go back to work this year, but one of the things the school district is they changed the bell schedule, so they were
Mm.
starting, and it was kind of a unilateral decision. It wasn't put it up for vote or discussion or anything. They shifted the school day 40 minutes later to for some reason or another. And so the school would start 40 minutes later, but that means you're getting out 40 minutes later. And where we live and she was teaching, that 40 minutes would have added an additional 30 minutes to the commute with traffic. And she's
Mm.
like it would have been tough this year
Yeah.
with her going back into the classroom, what we had gotten used to with her just teaching from home. I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, like that she wouldn't be getting home until 5 o'clock. Whereas before, and I would have to go pick them up. Yeah,
Yeah, I
whereas
remember that.
and it would be like I'd be trying to wrap up my day. I'd have to shift my day like 2 hours earlier so I could kind of wrap up around 3:30, go pick him up, spend time with him in the afternoon. She'd get home, we'd rush through dinner, the whole bedtime routine, and then off to bed, and then repeat the next day.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I'm glad it's a much more enjoyable, manageable workflow this
It
year.
is like we were thinking about this the other day. I'm like, it's we could be both be a little dramatic at times. So I'm like, it would have been miserable,
Yeah.
dealing with that, like just like that what we gotten used to, both of us being at home, working from home, and then the shift in the schedule for her work schedule. It would have been, yeah, it would have been brutal, especially like when you get into like the dead of winter when it gets dark
Yeah.
here at like quarter of
It's
five.
already starting to get dark early.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
But
yeah,
like when you get into the dead of winter, it's dark here 4:30, quarter of
yeah,
five.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well. Oh,
So
before we sign off,
yes,
are you going full Italian here with the striped jogger, or what's happening?
no, it's a polo shirt.
Oh,
Just
okay. I
yeah,
didn't see
no,
it was short sleeve. Okay, I was gonna
yeah,
say.
no, short sleeves.
Not that I would approve of either. So.
Nice.
Well,
Cool. Well, yeah, this has been a fun topic to dig into. I know it's something we talk about a lot, but it's just because over the years we've always gotten questions from friends, family, colleagues,
yeah,
clients, like how do you do this full remote? And it's something I like to talk to because right now it is definitely an evolving area. It's
yeah,
pandemic has definitely accelerated it. It was something that was growing, but now, like people who may not have thought before that they had an opportunity to do it have done it and want to embrace it.
yeah. For sure, and we're happy to help. I mean, it's not a paid service we offer, but we've done this forever. It seems like, and hopefully we've been able to answer some questions, especially this month as we've been focused on it as a topic. But we love talking about it. So it's like, serious, hit us up on LinkedIn or Twitter or something if you have questions, or it's like, hey, here we're trying to figure something out. How do you guys do this? Because we've kind of been down this path for a while.
Mhm. And not to toot our own horn, we've done it successfully.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and will
Yeah.
continue to be. So
Yep. Well, cool, man.
cool.
This has been fun.
Yep, good chat.
So, yep, good catching up with you. So we will wrap up for now and talk to everybody later.